based on all those three pillars, since more often the plans are used just for one use, are planned or designed actually, and many buildings do not have the energy efficiency sufficient. Industry produces a lot of waste materials as well. The construction-based sites as well, they let the waste materials all around the city, so more or less this recycle is not working properly, and those are bases where we could and we should think sustainably due to the achievement of the development in entire society, economic and other related issues. So sustainable design and energy efficiency in buildings is related with the concept of the interrelation with design categories. So starting as mentioned, Professor Kabashi mentioned that the design phase is very important from the beginning, where we should implement the energy efficiency concept, standards, codes, etc. And all those specific areas as here described shortly and briefly. Starting from materials, for instance, or starting from ecological point of view, ecological potential or features, changes of values of the site, building footprint, which is very important to design phase. Continuing with the materials, which is very important, which materials should be used due to the indicators related and with aims which contains the sustainable requirements for such a design. Roof, external walls, internal walls, upper and ground parts of the slabs, etc., windows, external doors. Actually, to continue with the water, saving indoor water use and external water use, atmospheric water use, which we already mentioned into our thesis projects into the bachelor's degree. Management is very important as a key factor of the design phase interrelation to the design categories, since we have to use the guidance to consider construction scheme, which is more often very provocative and very often faded and not very shown, very not transparent. Construction site implication security of the site as well. Pollution is the global warming potential of inflation, emissions of the CO2 or whatever. So we have to be careful which areas are more often infected by those things in order to improve and add the values into the sustainable development of the project. As well, the waste material is very important to know the storage of non-recyclable waste and non-recyclable household waste, so it's different management of the waste materials. Construction site and waste management is important as well during the construction, as mentioned already. So the surface water runoff should be managed properly in order to don't bring some risks on the food development of agriculture or etc. things. And the more important and the key factor, which already mentioned by Darren and our intention in our faculty, is to see the correlation with the energy and CO2 emission, which is dwellings or housing or inhabitants should emission rate as low as possible. Building fabric to be which produce building factories to produce as less as low emissions of those CO2. Internal lighting, driving spaces, external lighting, lower zero carbon, etc. That very important thing is to have healthy and well-being society, having such a comfort related with the day lighting, sound installation, private space, and lifetime buildings, which is very important in matter of cost improvements and cost-related investments, in particular to the dwelling phases. So those renewable energy efficiency, and energy conservations are three steps which should be correlated and should work together in each building, but in our case, in particular, in the case study where we analyzed actually the contents and possible improvements of the technical faculties buildings. So those three steps of energy conservation, energy efficiency, and renewable energy should work together, and of course priority is in energy conservation. So the matrix here shows very clearly and how we could elaborate the energy efficiency and university buildings, thinking about the short linkage which are here mentioned, and how to respond to the energy efficiency request that which measures should be taken in order to improve that level. General data about Kosovo, about the University of Prishtina, relation of the building in context of the entire assessed buildings which content the entire educational system in Kosovo. So, as mentioned, and you already know, some of you maybe aren't from Kosovo. I don't see them, but however, I'm going to repeat things, since I thought that we are going to represent them as well. Our capacities, university capacities, are spread into Kosovo, and our university contains 14 faculties, and 3 faculties, very important, are linked together and dealing and educating and creating the educational knowledge, spreading it into the one building. And we all know technical faculty, and the sources are mentioned here, and we already know that the location of the faculty is a little bit far from the campus, university campus here, and we should think about improving it in order to keep as much as closer to the center of the city and to the center of the campus university. So this farness doesn't fade the interest to be in the building in comparison with the fadeness which made the conditions and the comfort of the building itself. So we should be careful to evaluate and to increase the performance of energy efficiency of the building in order to create better conditions. So more or less we are aware, and we pass through the corridors into the faculty. We are very familiar with the flow of the faculty. We are very familiar, the building actually, excuse me, about the envelope of the building, contents of its nature, construction nature, building elements as well, and the layouts of the building is very obvious. We know how it's spread it and in which conditions work in phase to the wind, to the situation, to the allocation of the site, as well to the construction elements and to the nature of the building. So some pictures are here taken in order to see and to defend, actually to justify the assessment which have been done in order to see and to analyze and to compare the consumption of energy. So more or less we faced, during our assessment, we faced that the heating system doesn't work properly, and in order to increase that we use the electrical supplied appliances which create and generate the heating system. So more or less those data are here described in the general table, which we can see for those which don't know, and we are very keen to know about that. It's very often data which could be entered everywhere, especially in the faculty where the data contains in order to improve in the future their energy efficiency conditions. So the more important is the working days in the faculty is 220 days So, and the work shift is starting from 7 o'clock in the morning till 20 afternoon. So more or less entire day is a workable place where the students, the academic staff, the inviters and etc. Researchers etc. working and dealing in that area. And more than 5,000 users are in daily basis and 250 workers. So there is no renovation in terms of energy efficiency. The building has maintenance responsible for the whole building, but is not related and not sitting in the building where we could manage to monitor closely the maintenance part and improve the conditions of the energy efficiency. Those centralized levels are not properly, and this is a conclusion in the end. We will see how far we should develop that connection in management body, as mentioned into the interrelation design phase. So the sanitary services are not well, so as well we want to improve. Refurbishment part is not done properly, as mentioned Decan. As far as we go with that action to refurbish the building, as long as it will take and as costable will be. So more as closely or as earlier we will start to do such an improvement, we will save a lot of money and a lot of energy in that regards. So more or less those data helped us to create some words on Albanian still, since this research is already published in the Academy of Science. And those data are very important to know in order to do the audit or to do the standardized audit or assessment of the building, educational issues which will be delivered in the courses for the master program of energy efficiency. So a brief overview of energy consumption heating system. We saw that the building material is mostly, burning material is mostly massive from the central heating of Pristina. Is not regular supply due to the failures and less suppliers in the thermal city central heating. The system doesn't operate sufficiently due to the damages in the system. They see a lot of leakages, and due to the construction site nearby the building, we see a lot of explosions of the piping, etc., which cause the loss of temperature during the heating system, and comfort conditions, lack of comfort at internal spaces. All of us face that, including this area as well. This beautiful area without heating during the winter is decreasing the intention to use it, and internal network heating installations are old and not maintained. So radiators are from iron base, and 30 years is the life cycle of them. They are not clean, they are not well maintained in order to improve and to perform sufficiently into relation to the energy efficiency heating system. Estra as well, together with the Professor Violeta, Comoni, Professor Electrical Engineer, we as well measure and do the assessment of the energy consumption, and we saw that electrical installation is very poor condition in entire faculty. There is no project for replacement of our electrical devices and features. Actually, those features are block illuminated and opal, old-styled, etc. Troops or lighting troops features are working places, fluorescent tape, type, etc. System of BMS, so some sort of building management system in a smart building, very often used lately in order to light the building automatically and by using the users and being there. So more of the 80% of the administrative spaces and professor offices have parallel heating for the electrical devices, not just the heating system, etc. So, and that consumed a lot of energy. So more or less, lighting of the corridors is not is damaged. But a lot of consumption, we entered in the data where the programs offer us to compare the consumed standard conditions for comfort for each part of building elements, including the external walls, windows, doors, ground slabs, interlayer or interlayer slabs as well, the loss consumed after and savings of both. So loss in transmission is more or less those figures come to the conclusion that the graphical presentation of energy losses is mostly appears in the envelope, in the external walls actually, and in the suspending ceilings and the flat roof slab construction, where is not yet improved the enclosure of it and improved the conditions of the energy loss. So more or less the statement of compressive energy losses, we conclude that the loss in transmission is this situation, so more or less savings are very low if we do the consume after, and the total energy savings should be done if we do the area and improve the energy heating, etc. Those table reports of losses energy are very clearly shown here, not too much data. Of course, those data are comparable and scientific improvements. Actually, there is no need to explain more in detail. But the loss of in transmissions are between the half. So the efficiency in the heating system in the major factor where the losses of energy depend and are created. So as soon as we conclude those things based on the data which we enter in the database and in the programs related to this, we conclude that the heating system should be prioritized in order to improve. And as well, we are always in the question mark about the decision making where to start. First of all, awareness. After the consumption cost, light movement, enclosure, appliances, installation and ventilation, heat of water, heating and cooling, windows and the roof. So this pyramid more or less express the increasement of complexity of the energy efficiency and investments. So more or less depending on those. So for example, awareness in long-term period is low cost in comparison with the roof. So this graphical appearance very, very clearly show us where is the intention, where to prioritize the things and how to improve step by step if needed, and if the money and the investments allow us to do so. So more or less this pyramid is very well. Of course, the sources are very well known. We always could modify this metric in order to have something which is based on our relation. So, and as well the conclusion and recommendation. The building is over 30 years old. 7 floors with current rationalist structure longitudinally sufficiently to have a passive warning, but it's not evident due to the lack and bridges, etc., into the envelope of the building. So, besides being so well allocated in order to the installation directions, it's not passively orientated building in order to save the energy. A poor construction conditions due to the insufficient management is very important. Regarding to the internet ship, so is the maintenance part, where the sufficient working part maintenance bodies are related directly to the maintenance, and renovation and rehabilitation issues. So the keeping track, what is overloaded in the capacity of energy, what is lost, etc. Those things should be maintained very closely, and caused as a result of very low comfort standard compared with the energy consumption, has spaces requires for the educational, scientific and university education evoke time effectiveness. So more or less we all of us, to simplify this conclusion, is all of us are very linked with the pedagogical way, with the scientific research, etc., and that we do not care whoever and however is taking care about building. For us is more important, and we are focused in the knowledge and sucking that, since the time effectiveness is very important in relation to the maintenance of the building. And the other conclusions is to show the energy efficiency measurements to be taken initially is to insulate the building envelope, to replace the windows and doors where the losses are mostly, and to improve the flooring at different levels, particularly ground slab floor, where is collecting to the ground subbase. So those are based and scope for the research and findings, and based on recommendation support. Open questions remain. Which methods should be used to calculate the results at the evaluation of energy efficiency? Is in index HERS is a database which we use. Of course, we will produce more and we will involve the students to know how far we go. But it's a very short example. Of course, there's a lot of data and a lot of programs and softwares where we enter the data and produce the conclusions of the saving, consumption, etc. And of course, the measurements of the building elements separately by measuring the loss of energy and transmission. And in front of cost benefit for the recommended improvements and the expected return of investments as the pyramid expressed, and Professor Kabashi says before how far we can go and how long we could extend the refurbishment or start it earlier in order to save the money. Those methods must be harmonized with the principles of sustainable economic, social, and environmental development of typologies of the university buildings in Kosovo. It's a very important issue, since this start should be implemented into the other different assets, university assets spread all around the city, and we will save a lot due to the capacity which is very high compared with other universities. And more or less these references and sources which we have been used until this research has been done, and the very newly, let me say yesterday, is the good news that the European Union allocated and launched energy efficiency project in Kosovo schools, around the 70 million program aimed to promoting energy efficiency and renewables in 63 Kosovo schools. Hopefully, we started with the Tempus project as well. The elementary schools and high schools will increase the awareness of energy efficiency as well. Thank you for your attention. Open for questions.